Arjun was a curious 10-year-old boy with dark brown eyes that sparkled with mischief. His black hair was always a little messy, no matter how much his mother combed it. He was slender and a little shorter than most of his classmates, but what he lacked in height, he made up for with a big heart and an insatiable sense of wonder. One summer afternoon, while exploring the dusty attic of his grandparents' house, Arjun stumbled upon a strange old chest. The chest was covered in cobwebs and had carvings of swirling clouds and soaring birds etched into the wood. His heart raced with excitement as he opened it. Inside, lying atop faded newspapers, was a kite unlike any he had seen before. The kite was vibrant, with golden threads running through the red and blue fabric. The tail was made of silk ribbons that shimmered like sunlight on water. Holding it made Arjun feel as though the world had suddenly become brighter. Where did this come from? He wondered aloud. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Arjun decided to try flying the kite. The cool evening breeze seemed to beckon him outside. He ran to the hill near his house, gripping the kite's string tightly. With one strong throw, the kite soared into the sky, its golden threads catching the last rays of sunlight. But something magical happened. As the kite climbed higher, a soft glow began to emanate from its fabric. The world around Arjun blurred, and suddenly, he felt himself being lifted off the ground. The wind wrapped around him like a warm hug, and he found himself flying alongside the kite, carried by an invisible force. When the world came back into focus, Arjun was no longer on the hill. He stood in a vibrant forest where the trees sparkled as if they were dusted with gold. A talking parrot with emerald green feathers flew down and perched on his shoulder. "Welcome, traveler," the parrot squawked, tilting its head. "You've entered the forest of friendship. I am Nico, your guide. Here, you'll learn your first lesson about bravery." Before Arjun could ask what was happening, he heard a faint cry for help. He and Nico followed the sound to find a baby deer trapped in a thicket of thorny vines. "Be careful, Arjun," Nico warned. "The thorns are sharp, but you must help." Arjun's hands trembled as he reached for the vines. He carefully untangled the deer, ignoring the small scratches on his arms. Finally, the little creature was free and nuzzled Arjun in gratitude before bounding away into the forest. "Well done," Nico said. "True bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about helping others, even when you're scared." Before Arjun could respond, the forest began to fade, and he found himself back on the hill, the kite now gently resting in his hands. When he got home, his family noticed the small scratches on his arms. Arjun smiled and told them about his adventure, leaving out the part about flying, unsure if they'd believe him. "And what did you learn today?" his mother asked with a knowing smile. "I learned that being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid," Arjun replied. "It means doing what's right, even when it's hard." As Arjun lay in bed that night, he glanced at the kite leaning against his bedroom wall. He knew this was only the beginning of something extraordinary. The next morning, Arjun woke up with a sense of excitement. The glowing kite leaned against the wall, almost as if it were waiting for him. After breakfast, he grabbed the kite and ran back to the hill. This time, the wind picked up the kite almost immediately. As the golden threads shimmered, Arjun felt the familiar tug at his hands and then the magical lift as he soared into the sky. Once again, the world blurred, and when it came back into focus, He was somewhere entirely new. Arjun found himself standing by a sparkling river. The water glowed with a soft, silvery light, and tiny fish leaped playfully in the currents. The air was warm and sweet, and the soft hum of music seemed to come from the river itself. "Welcome to the river of kindness," said a gentle voice. Arjun turned to see a graceful otter with silken brown fur and a twinkle in its eyes. The otter wore a tiny satchel and stood upright on its hind legs. "I'm Sora," the otter introduced itself with a bow. "I've been waiting for you. Kindness is the key to this place, and you'll soon see why." Before Arjun could ask any questions, Sora led him to a small wooden bridge that stretched across the river. On the far side, a group of animals, rabbits, birds, and squirrels, had gathered around a giant, broken beehive. The hive had fallen from a tree, and the bees buzzed around in confusion, unable to find their home. "We must help them," Sora said. "But be warned, kindness requires patience and understanding." Arjun hesitated. He wasn't sure how to help without getting stung. "What can I do?" he asked. "Start small," Sora replied. "Gather flowers to give them nectar." Arjun nodded and began collecting the brightest flowers he could find. He placed them near the hive, and the bees quickly swarmed to the blossoms. Their buzzing grew softer, almost like a melody. Next, Arjun worked with Sora to carefully lift the pieces of the broken hive. With patience and gentle hands, they began to rebuild it. The animals watched in awe, some even pitching in by carrying tiny twigs and leaves. Finally, the hive was restored. The bees buzzed joyfully as they settled into their new home. One of them flew up to Arjun and landed on his shoulder, as if to thank him. "Well done," Sora said. "Kindness is not just about helping others. It's about understanding their needs and offering your height." As the sun began to set over the glowing river, the world around Arjun began to fade. Moments later, he was back on the hill, the kite resting quietly in his hands. At dinner that evening, his little sister, Maya, looked upset because she couldn't solve a puzzle she'd been working on. Remembering the lesson from the river, Arjun offered to help her. Together, they solved it, and her smile was all the reward he needed. Kindness is its own magic, Arjun thought as he drifted off to sleep that night, the kite waiting for their next adventure. The morning air felt crisp as Arjun held the magical kite. He couldn't wait to see where it would take him next. Standing on the hill, he let the kite catch the wind. Its golden threads shimmered as it lifted into the sky, pulling him along. As the world blurred, Arjun felt the familiar thrill of flight. When the world came into focus, Arjun found himself on a rocky mountain path. Jagged cliffs surrounded him, and above, the peaks disappeared into clouds. The air smelled of fresh pine and adventure. "Welcome to the Mountain of Courage," a voice boomed. Arjun turned to see a mighty mountain goat standing atop a nearby boulder. The goat had snowy white fur, curved golden horns, and piercing blue eyes. Its presence was both commanding and reassuring. "I am Raza," the goat introduced itself. "This mountain will teach you what it means to be truly courageous." Arjun nodded nervously. The path ahead was steep, with loose rocks that made every step precarious. "What do I need to do?" he asked. "You must climb to the peak," Raza said, leaping gracefully to a higher ledge. "But remember, courage is not just about strength. It's about facing challenges with determination and heart." Arjun began climbing, his hands gripping the rocky surface. The higher he went, the more difficult the path became. At one point, a sudden gust of wind almost knocked him off balance, but Raza was always nearby, offering guidance. As Arjun reached a narrow ledge, he heard a cry for help. Peering down, he saw a small fox trapped in a crevice below. Its paw was caught under a heavy rock. "I have to help it," Arjun said, looking at Rouser. Rouser nodded. Courage often means putting others before yourself, even when the task is daunting. Carefully, Arjun climbed down to the crevice. The space was tight, and the rock was heavy, but he didn't give up. Using all his strength, he managed to free the fox's paw. The little creature licked his hand gratefully before scurrying off into the safety of the forest below. Exhausted but determined, Arjun resumed his climb. When he finally reached the peak, he was rewarded with a breathtaking view of the entire mountain range. The sky was a kaleidoscope of colors, and the wind carried a feeling of triumph. "You've done well," Rouser said, standing proudly beside him. "Remember, courage is not about the absence of fear but the determination to overcome it." As the colors of the sky swirled around him, the scene began to fade. Moments later, Arjun was back on the hill, the kite glowing softly in his hands. That evening, Arjun noticed his father struggling with a ladder while fixing a light bulb. Though Arjun was a little afraid of heights, he offered to hold the ladder steady, remembering Raz's lesson about courage. As he drifted off to sleep that night, Arjun felt proud of the lessons he was learning, and he couldn't wait to see what the kite had in store for him next. As the sun rose, Arjun's thoughts lingered on the lessons he had learned so far. The magical kite leaned against the wall, seeming to call out to him. Eager for his next adventure, he grabbed it and rushed to the hill. The wind was playful this morning, lifting the kite effortlessly. As its golden threads shimmered, the familiar magic enveloped Arjun. The world blurred, and he felt the rush of flight. When the scenery came into focus, he found himself in a breathtaking garden. The Garden of Forgiveness was unlike anything Arjun had ever seen. The trees were heavy with fruits of every color, and vibrant flowers lined the paths, their petals shifting hues as if they were alive. A soft, melodic hum filled the air, creating a sense of peace. "Welcome, Arjun," said a calm, soothing voice. Arjun turned to see an elegant swan gliding across a shimmering pond. The swan had feathers that seemed to glow faintly, and its eyes sparkled with wisdom. "I am Amara," the swan said, her voice like the rippling water. "Forgiveness blooms here, but it is not always easy to cultivate. Today, you will learn why it is a gift for both the giver and the receiver." Arjun nodded, curious but unsure of what lay ahead. Amara guided him to a clearing where two young monkeys were arguing. One monkey had accidentally knocked over the other's basket of fruit, scattering the contents everywhere. "They've been at odds all morning," Amara explained. "Their anger has stopped the flowers around them from blooming." Arjun watched as the colorful flowers near the monkeys remained closed, their petals tightly furled. "What can I do to help?" he asked. "Help them understand forgiveness," Amara said, gliding gracefully to the edge of the clearing. Arjun approached the monkeys cautiously. "I know you're upset," he said to the monkey whose basket had been spilled. "But accidents happen. Maybe your friend didn't mean to knock it over." The monkey looked down, its face softening. "I didn't mean to," the other monkey said quietly. "I was just playing too close." "It's hard to forgive," Arjun admitted. "But when we do, it helps everyone feel better. Maybe you can work together to pick up the fruit." The monkeys hesitated, but eventually, they began gathering the scattered fruit together. As they worked side by side, the flowers around them slowly began to bloom, filling the clearing with color and fragrance. Amara smiled. Well done, Arjun. Forgiveness is like sunlight. It helps hearts grow and heal. As the magical garden began to fade, Arjun found himself back on the hill, the kite resting peacefully in his hands. That evening, Arjun saw his best friend, Ravi, at the park. Ravi accidentally broke Arjun's favorite toy the week before, and they hadn't spoken since. Remembering the lesson from the garden, Arjun approached Ravi with a smile. I forgive you, he said. The relief on Ravi's face was immediate, and they spent the rest of the afternoon playing together. As Arjun fell asleep that night, he felt a warmth in his heart, knowing the magic of the kite had made the world a little brighter once again. The morning breeze carried the scent of adventure as Arjun held the magical kite in his hands. Each trip had taught him something valuable, and he was eager to discover the next lesson. He sprinted to the hill and launched the kite into the air. The golden threads glimmered as the kite soared, lifting Arjun off the ground. The familiar blur of magic surrounded him, and when the world came into focus, he found himself standing in a vast desert. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the endless dunes. The sand shimmered like tiny diamonds, and a cool breeze carried the faint sound of distant bells. Welcome to the desert of patience, a deep, resonant voice called out. Arjun turned to see a majestic camel approaching. The camel had golden fur that seemed to glow in the sunlight and a silver collar adorned with small bells around its neck. Its wise, gentle eyes seemed to hold the secrets of the desert. I am Zahir, the camel said, bowing slightly. This desert tests those who seek to understand patience. Your challenge lies ahead. Curious but cautious, Arjun followed Zahir across the dunes. After walking for a while, they reached an oasis. A small group of travelers stood by the water, their faces lined with frustration. They had been trying to cross the desert but had lost their map in a sandstorm. They are weary and restless, Zahir explained. They need guidance, but patience is the key to finding the way. Arjun approached the travelers. How can I help? He asked. We've been stuck here for days, one traveler said, pacing anxiously. Without the map, we don't know which way to go. Arjun looked around and noticed patterns in the sand dunes. He remembered reading about how the stars and the sun could guide travelers in the desert. Maybe we can figure out the way using the sun's position, he suggested. The travelers grumbled, reluctant to wait for the sun to move. It will take too long, one said. Sometimes patience is the only way forward, Zahir said, stepping beside Arjun. Encouraged, Arjun spent the day observing the shadows cast by the sun and marking the dunes with sticks to track their movement. He encouraged the travelers to rest and stay calm. By evening, the sun's path had revealed the direction they needed to go. You were right, one of the travelers said, their frustration replaced by gratitude. Patience showed us the way. As the travelers set off on their journey, Zahir smiled at Arjun. Patience may feel difficult, but it leads to clarity and success. Remember this, young one. The golden desert began to shimmer and fade. Moments later, Arjun was back on the hill, the kite resting in his hands. At dinner that night, his mother asked him to help peel vegetables for a big family meal. Though it was tedious, Arjun remembered Zahir's lesson and stayed patient. When the meal was ready, the smiles around the table made it all worthwhile. That night, as Arjun drifted off to sleep, he couldn't wait to see where the kite would take him next. After a hearty breakfast, Arjun's eyes flicked over to the magical kite resting in the corner of his room. Each journey had brought him new wisdom, and he felt a stirring in his heart. He was ready for another adventure. Grabbing the kite, he hurried to the familiar hill. A gentle morning wind lifted the kite skyward. As the golden threads caught the sunlight, Arjun felt the soft pull on his hands. The world blurred around him, and the exhilarating rush of flight took over. When his surroundings came into focus again, he found himself on a sandy beach. The island of gratitude stretched before him, a lush paradise ringed by crystal-clear waters. Palm trees swayed in a gentle breeze, and colorful birds soared overhead. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming hibiscus flowers. "Ahoy, traveler!" called out a friendly voice. Arjun turned to see a cheerful dolphin splashing just offshore. The dolphin had a sleek, silver-blue body and wore a playful smile. Its eyes sparkled with curiosity. "I'm Coral," the dolphin said, hopping onto the shore with surprising agility. "Welcome to the island of gratitude. Hey, you'll discover why giving thanks is so important." Before Arjun could respond, Coral led him along the beach toward a group of sea turtles. The turtles appeared distressed. One of their nests had been washed away by a sudden high tide. Tiny eggs lay scattered in the sand, vulnerable to the sun's heat. "We must save them," Arjun said, kneeling carefully in the sand. With Coral's help, Arjun gently gathered the eggs and dug a new nest farther from the water's reach. Several turtles and island birds joined in, using their beaks and flippers to move sand and protect the fragile eggs. Once the eggs were safely placed, the sea turtles let out soft cries of relief. "Thank you for helping," one of the older turtles said in a raspy but gentle voice. "We are so grateful to have kind strangers protect our future." A warmth filled Arjun's heart. He realized it felt good to hear that gratitude spoken aloud. It made the effort feel even more meaningful. "That's the power of gratitude," Coral explained. "When we thank others, we acknowledge their kindness and encourage more of it in the world." After ensuring the turtle eggs were safe, Arjun noticed a vibrant tree nearby with shimmering fruits shaped like stars. Curious, he picked one to see if it was ripe. Right away, the fruit began to glow softly in his hand. "That's a star fruit of gratitude," Coral said. "They glow brightly whenever someone shows genuine thanks." Arjun offered the star fruit to the older turtle, who accepted it with a humble bow. Suddenly, the fruit's glow intensified, lighting up the beach in a gentle golden radiance. Laughter and cheers filled the air. As the brilliant light spread, the island began to fade. Before he knew it, Arjun was back on the hill, the kite resting softly against his side. That night, his grandfather helped him with a difficult math problem. Arjun remembered Coral's lesson and expressed his gratitude with a warm hug and a heartfelt thank you. "Grandpa." Seeing the big smile on his grandfather's face reminded him of the golden glow of the starfruit. As he drifted off to sleep, Arjun felt grateful for the magical kite and all the adventures that lay ahead. Eager to discover the next lesson waiting for him in some distant, wondrous land, Arjun woke up to a bright morning, still filled with wonder from his visit to the island of gratitude. He could hardly wait to see where the magical kite would take him next. He raced to the familiar hill, feeling the cool breeze against his face. As soon as he released the kite, its golden threads shimmered like sunlight on water. The gentle pull lifted him off the ground, and Arjun soared once more into a swirl of colors. When his vision cleared, Arjun found himself standing in a peaceful valley. Lush green meadows stretched as far as the eye could see, with sparkling streams weaving across the land like ribbons of silver. The gentle sound of flowing water and chirping birds created a soothing melody. "Welcome to the Valley of Empathy," said a calm, low voice behind him. Turning around, Arjun saw a wise elephant with soft gray skin and kind brown eyes. The elephant wore a delicate necklace of wildflowers, and its large ears seemed to flutter in the breeze. "I am Shahana," the elephant said, dipping her head in greeting. "In this valley, we learn to understand and share the feelings of others." Arjun followed Shahana through the meadow until they reached two baby lambs quarreling. One lamb had ventured too far from the flock and accidentally stepped on the other's foot. The injured lamb bleated in pain, while the other tried to explain it was an accident. Both looked upset and misunderstood. "Sometimes it's easy to focus on our own hurt," Shahana explained softly. "But empathy asks us to pause, see the other's point of view, and offer comfort." Gently, Arjun kneeled beside the lambs. "I'm sorry you're hurt," he said to the injured one. He gently touched its foot, ensuring it wasn't broken. Then he turned to the lamb that had caused the accident. "I know you feel bad. Maybe you can help your friend feel better by staying close and being careful." The two lambs looked at each other, their eyes softening. The uninjured lamb nuzzled the hurt one in apology, and soon, both were playing together happily in the grass. "Well done," Shahana said, smiling. "Empathy brings hearts closer and eases pain." Just then, the valley began to shimmer and fade. Moments later, Arjun stood once again on the hill, the kite gently resting in his hands. That evening at home, his sister, Maya, was upset after losing a favorite hair clip. Instead of brushing off her tears, Arjun sat beside her, listened, and helped her look for it. Seeing her smile when they found it under the couch reminded him of Shahana's words. Understanding others' feelings is the first step toward truly helping them. As Arjun fell asleep, he felt a gentle warmth in his chest, knowing he was growing not just in bravery or kindness, but also in empathy, one flight at a time with his magical kite. Morning light shone through Arjun's window, waking him with excitement. Ever since discovering the magical kite, each day held the promise of a new journey and a new lesson. After breakfast, he raced up the hill, clutching the kite in his arms. A lively breeze caught the red and blue fabric, setting its golden threads aglow. With a lift and a flutter, the kite carried Arjun once more into the swirling currents of magic. When his surroundings became clear, Arjun found himself standing at the edge of a bustling city. Glistening towers reached for the sky, and streets lined with colorful houses wound like ribbons through the heart of the city. Everywhere he looked, people hurried to and fro, traders, families, and performers, each absorbed in their own tasks. "Welcome to the city of honesty," came a soft, earnest voice. Arjun turned to see a fox trotting beside him. The fox's fur was a warm copper color, and around its neck hung a small medallion that shimmered in the sun. "My name is Fen," the fox said, offering a polite bow. "Honesty is the foundation of trust in this city. Today, you'll learn how being truthful can guide you, even when it's difficult." Curious, Arjun followed Fen through the winding streets. They soon came upon a small market stall where a worried shopkeeper was searching frantically under boxes and crates. "What happened?" Arjun asked. "I've misplaced a precious heirloom I was supposed to deliver," the shopkeeper replied, sounding distressed. "Without it, I'll lose the trust of my customers." Arjun and Fen offered to help search. As they moved crates aside, Arjun noticed a boy lingering near the stall, glancing over his shoulder nervously. Suspicious, Arjun approached him. "I didn't mean to take it," the boy stammered, holding out a small wooden carving shaped like a bird. "I just thought it was so beautiful, and I I didn't have enough money to buy it. Fen gently placed a paw on the boy's hand. Admitting the truth is the first step toward making things right, the fox said. Tears welled in the boy's eyes as he confessed to the shopkeeper. I'm sorry, he said quietly, returning the heirloom. I was afraid you'd be angry. The shopkeeper's expression softened. I appreciate your honesty. That carving means a lot to my family, and I'm glad you returned it. Instead of punishing the boy, the shopkeeper offered him a small job at the stall so he could earn enough to buy something special in the future. Grateful, the boy wiped his tears and thanked them all. Arjun smiled, feeling a sense of relief and pride. Fen nodded approvingly. Being honest is sometimes scary, the fox said, but it builds trust and respect that last a lifetime. With that, the city began to swirl away in a haze of light. In the blink of an eye, Arjun stood once more on the familiar hill, the magical kite resting gently in his hands. That evening, as he sat with his family, his father asked about a missing piece of candy from the kitchen. Normally, Arjun might have avoided admitting he ate it, worried about disappointing them. But Fen's words echoed in his mind, and he spoke up, apologizing for sneaking the sweet treat. His parents thanked him for his honesty, and although he had to help tidy the kitchen as a small consequence, Arjun felt a peaceful lightness in his heart for telling the truth. As Arjun drifted off to sleep, he realized he was changing with each adventure. Braver, kinder, more patient, and now more honest. And he couldn't wait to see what lesson the kite would bring him next. A gentle dawn light filtered through Arjun's curtains, reminding him that a new day had arrived, another chance to learn from the magical kite. After a quick breakfast, he headed to the trusty hill. The kite, shimmering with golden threads, rose into the crisp morning sky. Arjun felt the now familiar flutter in his chest as he was lifted into a swirl of colors and carried far away. When the world around him settled, Arjun found himself at the entrance of a sprawling maze. The walls were made of tall, intricately woven hedges, adorned with blooming vines and flowers that seemed to shift whenever he looked away. Welcome to the labyrinth of perseverance, came a deep, patient voice. Arjun turned to see a wise old tortoise ambling toward him. Its shell was etched with swirling patterns, and a small lantern hung around its neck, glowing softly. My name is Timer, the tortoise introduced itself. To learn perseverance, you must navigate this maze. But take heart. True perseverance means continuing even when you feel like giving up. With a determined nod, Arjun followed Timer into the labyrinth. At first, the path was straightforward, but soon, it split into twisting corridors and dead ends. Thorny branches occasionally blocked the way, and hidden doors required clever thinking to unlock. Slow down and take it one step at a time, Timer advised. Remember, small progress is still progress. Arjun got turned around more than once. At times, the way forward seemed impossible. Yet, every time he felt discouraged, Timer's gentle encouragement reminded him not to lose hope. Along the way, they encountered a frightened hare who had become lost in the maze. Its paws trembled, and it was ready to give up. We'll find the way together, Arjun said, offering his hand. With patience and determination, the three of them pressed on, step by careful step. Eventually, Arjun spotted the exit, a tall archway covered in vibrant blue flowers. The sight filled him with renewed energy. Summoning the last of his resolve, he guided Timer and the hare through the winding turns until they emerged into a sunlit clearing at the labyrinth's edge. You did it, Timer said, smiling. Perseverance isn't just about pressing forward. It's also about believing in yourself even when the path is unclear. No sooner had they stepped into the clearing than the world began to blur. In the blink of an eye, Arjun was back on his familiar hill, the kite nestled safely beside him. That evening, Arjun was working on a difficult art project for school. The drawing wasn't turning out the way he wanted, and he felt tempted to crumple it up. But then he remembered Timer's words and decided to keep going, little by little. When he finally finished, a sense of accomplishment warmed him from within. As he drifted off to sleep, Arjun recalled the tortoise's wise guidance. Perseverance means moving forward, even when the road is tough. Another lesson learned, another gift from his magical kite. The sun rose on a bright new day, casting long rays of golden light through Arjun's window. His heart fluttered with excitement. This felt like the day his grand journey with the magical kite would come to a close. He carefully picked up the kite, marveling at how its red and blue fabric still shimmered with those enchanted golden threads. Out on the grassy hill, the morning air was calm, yet filled with a sense of anticipation. Arjun took a deep breath and let the kite catch the breeze. The glow intensified, and with a soft whoosh, he was swept into a swirl of colors, lifted high into the skies. When his eyes opened again, Arjun found himself atop a gently rolling meadow. Arching overhead was a magnificent rainbow that shifted and pulsed with ethereal light. Drops of dew sparkled on the wildflowers at his feet, reflecting all the shades of the rainbow in miniature. "Welcome to the rainbow of reflection," said a gentle voice. Arjun turned to see a graceful deer standing nearby. The deer's coat was dappled with faint rainbow hues, and its eyes glowed with a peaceful wisdom. "My name is Raya," the deer said. "You've come here to reflect on all the lessons you've learned. Let the rainbow guide you." Arjun approached the rainbow's base, where each band of color formed a small portal. Within each arch, he glimpsed memories from his past adventures. Red glowed with his bravery on the mountain of courage. Orange shimmered with kindness shown at the river of kindness. Yellow beamed with forgiveness from the garden of forgiveness. Green glimmered with patience tested in the desert of patience. Blue sparkled with gratitude from the island of gratitude. Indigo shone with empathy discovered in the valley of empathy. Violet radiated with honesty fostered in the city of honesty. Softly, Raya spoke. "All these lessons have shaped you. But there is one last gift to receive, love. Not just love for others, but also love for yourself. When you carry these lessons in your heart, you become the best version of who you're meant to be." Stepping forward, Arjun felt a warm glow in his chest. The rainbow's colors seemed to converge, dancing around him in brilliant spirals of light. Each lesson came together: bravery, kindness, forgiveness, patience, gratitude, empathy, honesty, and perseverance, and formed a radiant circle around him. "You are ready," Raya said, bowing gracefully. "Return home. And remember that the greatest magic is the goodness within you." The vibrant lights swirled faster and faster until they melted into a dazzling glow. Arjun closed his eyes against the brightness, and when he opened them, he was back on his hill, the kite resting gently at his feet. The sky was clear, and a soft breeze rustled through the grass. Walking home, Arjun felt different, calmer, kinder, and confident that he could share these lessons with the people around him. He placed the kite carefully in his room, knowing that its magic was now part of him forever. That evening, as he told his family about his adventures, he realized the journey had changed him. He was no longer just a curious boy with a dusty old kite. He was Arjun, brave, kind, patient, grateful, empathetic, honest, persistent, and filled with love. Moral lesson: the magic in our lives isn't just in wondrous places or enchanted objects. It comes from living with honesty, kindness, courage, forgiveness, gratitude, empathy, patience, perseverance, and love. When we embrace these virtues, we bring light and warmth to ourselves and to everyone around us. Thank you for joining Arjun on his magical journeys. If you enjoyed this story and want to explore more enchanting adventures, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new tale. Together, let's keep spreading kindness and magic every day.